Hi there and welcome. Today we'll be covering Truthy values. However, if you're interested, check out the Interview Zoomies playlist for other front-end interview related videos. Alright, back to today's topic, Truthy values. So, Truthy values are values that evaluate to true in a Boolean context. In yesterday's video, we looked at the possible falsy values in JavaScript, and the Truthy values are everything that are not those values. So, let's take a look. With strings, a falsy value would be an empty string. So any string that is not that should be good to go. What is interesting though, is that an empty string is falsy, but an empty array and an empty object are actually truthy values. Now let's take a look at numbers. So 0, -0, big int 0 are all falsy. You could use the number 1 to indicate a truthy value, or literally any other number, 1, 100, 1000, it doesn't matter. And along the same lines to that, nan, not a number, is falsy. So once again, we can just use an actual number that's not 0, -0, or big int 0 to denote a truthy value. Lastly, undefined and null are both considered falsy values as well. So if we hoist a variable and check a condition, it'll be falsy until it is declared to a truthy value. All right, so on to some theoretical questions. What does a truthy value mean in the context of JavaScript? Well, it is any value that would evaluate to true in a Boolean context. On to the next one. Can an object be falsy? No, an object cannot be falsy. Even in a scenario of an empty object, this will still be considered a truthy value. This is different than a string, which is a primitive type, where an empty string is considered falsy. Lastly, what would the following expression evaluate to? So this would evaluate to true. First, the string would be converted to a Boolean value, which would be true because it is a non-empty string. Then the logical not operator would negate it, so it would now be false. But then the final logical not operator would negate the negation, and so we would end up with a true value. On to some coding questions. Write a function that checks if all elements in an array are truthy. Great, so we have a truthy checker function, and what we want to do is make sure that every single value in the array is true. If even one value is false, we want to return false. Otherwise, return true. We can do this by using a for loop and looping through the entire array. So we'll declare a variable I at index 0, then we'll loop as long as I is less than the length of the array, and then we'll iterate by 1. Now, inside of the loop, we will have a conditional if statement. What we want to check is if any value is false, then immediately we know the array is not truthy and we want to return false. So we will use the logical not operator followed by the current array element. This works because if the value is false, then we negate it. The value inside of this condition will then be true, which then allows for us to return false and exit out of the function. Otherwise, we'll just return true because we checked each element and not a single one was falsy. Lastly, what will the following expression evaluate to? All right, so this is another tricky question. We have the number 1 followed by the or operator, followed by a string a, then an and operator, followed by null, and then an or operator and an empty array. So the logical and operator has a higher precedence, and it returns the first falsy value or the last truthy value if all values are truthy. And because of this higher precedence it has over the or operator, we will first compare the string a with null. And so null is falsy, so it's going to return null. And now we're comparing 1 or null or the empty array. And so the or operator returns the first truthy value or the last falsy value if everything is false. So here we have a truthy value in 1, followed by a falsy value in null, and a truthy value in the empty array. So the first truthy value is going to be 1, which is what we will return. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.